What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Danny and Bush coming at you with a mock draft, a half PPR, one quarterback redraft, season-long mock draft for 2021 fantasy football. We're going to be both drafting in this one, going over a mock draft on Sleeper. Sleeper's a great platform. I'm sure you guys have used it for dynasty leagues, but they also do redraft on there as well. We figured we'd mix it up. We've been using Underdog a lot lately, and we'll use a platform that I'm sure you guys are familiar with and probably are in a lot of leagues on.
Yeah, for sure. Again, the reason why we do enjoy using Sleeper is that for the most part, their ADP is currently up to date. And in general, got to give you a little refresher. We've been using Fantasy Pros. We've been using Underdog. So why not try it on Sleeper? But yeah, as Corey mentioned, today we're going to be heading into a one quarterback, half PPR redraft mock draft. And we're going to be randomizing this draft order, baby. So you'll be seeing the draft order as soon as we do. And I get the 2 slot, you get the 6 slot.
Hey, I didn't get the 11 slot, which is usually what I get when we randomize order, but
just a classic considering I would get the 2 spot, eh?
Yeah, I don't even know if you need to do any research on any of these bottom end of the first round guys, because you're probably just going to pick in the top 3 in every league that you're in.
For sure. But before we head into this mock draft, before I hit that start draft, I'm going to hit the intro on y'all. Okay, so let's start off this mock draft and let's see where number 1 goes. And to nobody's surprise, it's going to be Christian McCaffrey. So I'll take Dalvin Cook here. Recently moved him up to my number 2 overall. It's just so hard to overlook this guy's potential. I mean, we saw last year, this guy was a near 24.5 point per game type producer. And if he's on the field, he's quite simply a league winner in terms of the rushing, in terms of the touchdowns, and in terms of the receiving output. You should expect being in that 45 to 55 type reception range.
Right. And we all know what the risk is with Dalvin Cook, right? There's a risk that he gets injured. But Christian McCaffrey got injured last year. Any running back can get injured at any point in time. We can't really hold that against Dalvin Cook too much, because we know if this dude is on the field, if he's on the field for 11 games, 15 games, 16 games, 17 games, however many games he's on the field, he's going to be one of the best 3 running backs in fantasy. And that's not something you can say about some of the other guys that went directly behind him.
Yeah, for sure. So you're currently on the clock at 6, and I already know who you're going. So talk about that, your boy himself.
Yeah, so to me, Saquon Barkley is absolutely worth the 6th overall pick. I'm starting to shy away from a little bit at the 102 spot where I had him ranked before. I might take Dalvin Cook over him as well. But at the 106, man, you're looking at deciding between Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, and Ezekiel Elliott most likely in that situation. And I think Saquon Barkley's risk in that tier of players is worth the upside swing. When you're talking about a guy, Saquon Barkley versus Dalvin Cook, then you get into a little bit more of a sketchy area, because we know what Dalvin Cook is when he's on the field. And to be honest, it's been better than Saquon Barkley from a fantasy perspective.
Yep, for sure. So you're back on the clock here at the 207. After you took Barkley, we saw Adams, Hill, Taylor, Elliott, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Hopkins finish out the first round. Eckler, AJ Brown, Akers, Metcalf, Mixon, and Diggs all go off in the second round. And to me, there's one screaming value if I was picking here, but what are your thoughts on this pick?
There is a screaming value. I think it's the same player we're thinking of right now. To me, Antonio Gibson would likely be the direction I would go, but I'm going to mix it up here. I'm going to take Travis Kelce, because I think Travis Kelce shouldn't be available at this pick. I think he's probably a guy that should go off the board before DK Metcalf, before AJ Brown, before Joe Mixon. I think his range of outcomes should be in that top 15 range. And the fact that at the 2-7 he was available for me, I'll pick him. I usually never go early tight end, but I'll see how it works out this time.
For sure. I think that's a personal steal. I would have him more so in that top 8 overall, top 9 overall type range. So the fact that you got him at the 207, and you saw me grimace as you were talking about Travis Kelce. We saw after you picked Kelce, Ridley, Jefferson, and Antonio Gibson get sniped right before me. So great on that. But anyways, I'm looking at the board here. So you see the running backs available. My clear top guy left is going to be Najee Harris. And you look at the receivers, you're thinning out, but I would like a Thomas, Allen, or potentially one of these tight ends if they fall. So I'm more willing to wait or take the running back first and wait to see what type of other receiver or tight end falls back. So with that being said, I am going to take Najee Harris. When we talked about it at nauseum all offseason, nauseum. Get the little pun. But anyways, this guy's going to have a full workload. We're talking about a Steelers team that have typically featured their number one running back with a 70+ opportunity share, really all 2010s. And we've outlined it before, but plus 70% is workhorse range. That is a classic bell cow type back that can really carry your running back core. And to pair with Dalvin Cook, I mean, I'm living life. I don't feel like I have to touch a running back core for a while right now. Like, and as much as I love CEH, the way I'm looking at it, I got Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, or I can go with one of these tight ends. And you went tight end in the second round. I think I'm going to mix it up here. I think I'm going to go George Kittle.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. George Kittle is the tight end too as well. We saw what he did in the games that he was healthy last year. Obviously, he dealt with some injuries, as did the entire San Francisco 49ers team. But we know when George Kittle is on the field, there's no bigger play threat. There's no, elite pass catching option at the tight end position than George Kittle. And I am absolutely over the moon right now because J.K. Dobbins, who's a guy I actually am willing to spend a second round pick on, is here for me in the mid third. And I got to pair him with Saquon Barkley and Travis Kelce. And I actually have this running back core in our listener dynasty league of Saquon Barkley and J.K. Dobbins. So it's a stack that I'm very comfortable with. And David Montgomery just broke my heart going the pick right before me, though.
That's paying. And yeah, the running back. See, this is why I'm glad I have two running backs by now, because now we're seeing the quote unquote RB dead zone we outlined in the video with Hayden fully come into effect. So yeah.
There's a clear pick to me and it's a huge tier break at wide receiver right now. And Amari Cooper on the board right there.
I knew it.
The fact that Amari Cooper, and there goes CeeDee Lamb. So all the Cowboys are off the board for Danny, but Amari Cooper to me, you guys are going to be seeing in about a couple days from now, the wide receivers version of the running back video that I released on Monday, talking about what it takes to be a true difference-making, league-winning, 20+ half PPR fantasy point type of wide receiver. And Amari Cooper is one of the guys that actually has that type of ability this year. And he, to me, is almost the last guy that I feel really comfortable with projecting that type of ceiling.
Yeah, for sure. So we do see, unfortunately, the two wide receivers I was targeting were the two Dallas guys. Go figure. You see the jerseys in my background. But the wide receiver I kind of would prefer here next, I believe, would be DJ Moore. I can just consult my rankings, but I do have Cooper Kupp higher, but I'm thinking I can go DJ Moore first and end up getting Cooper Kupp on the way back. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take the gamble, although I have Cooper Kupp ranked as a top 20 wide receiver. Let me take it. Cooper Kupp falls. Perfect. So I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp with his second pick. Again, the reason why typically here I would go with a Lamar Jackson, a Dak Prescott, one of these quarterbacks to anchor my team. But I took the tight end early, and I just feel like taking both a quarterback and a tight end in the first 5 rounds would just deplete the rest of my positions. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp here, and I do think he has top 10 type potential in that new offense with Matthew Stafford at the helm.
Right. And to me, I have a tier breaker wide receiver because Cooper Kupp was, again, a guy that I would have been targeting with that pick. You said you're not going to do it. Well, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to take Lamar Jackson right here. I don't think Lamar Jackson should be going any further down the board than Josh Allen is going. So if Josh Allen's a 4th round pick, Lamar Jackson should be a 4th round pick. If Kyler Murray's a 4th round pick, Lamar Jackson should be a 4th round pick. To me, he's my quarterback too, and I have him a lot closer to Mahomes than I do the other guys. So he's a guy that I'm absolutely smashing anytime he's available in the 5th round. I don't typically take quarterbacks early, but to me, Lamar Jackson isn't a quarterback in the traditional sense. From a fantasy perspective, this is a guy with a 1,000 rushing yard floor. That is absurd at the quarterback position.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you're talking about Lamar Jackson, again, this is a guy who we saw over those last 7 games, averaging over 27 points per game at the quarterback position, looking like that prime peak 28 point per game performer we saw in 2019. And the fact that he's going in the 5th round after, quite frankly, seeing that same type of Lamar Jackson in the final 7 games, which is a near 2.5 round discrepancy from where he was going last year. It's just absurd to me. Again, these two quarterbacks back to back, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott going in the 5th round, are absolute steals in my opinion, because straight up, as you guys would have saw in the redraft rankings, I would take him over Josh Allen. I would take them over Kyler Murray. And the fact that you're getting them here in the 5th round, as much as I love Patrick Mahomes, there's no shot I'm taking him at the 305 when I know I can get these two type of quarterbacks. Even Kyler like later on, like usually goes before them, 2 rounds later.
Right. And it doesn't seem like a big difference, right? It's only 2 rounds, but the difference between the guys that you're picking Patrick Mahomes over, right? Like you could have taken J.K. Dobbins, Terry McLaurin, Julio Jones, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper. But the difference between that and taking Lamar Jackson over a guy like Melvin Gordon or T. Higgins is a lot easier to stomach because I know what Lamar Jackson is from a fantasy perspective. And
for sure.
Unlike Lamar Jackson, who I don't know what he is from a fantasy perspective, I have a great feeling about him from a fantasy perspective. I took Chase Claypool there to anchor my wide receiver 2 spot. A little bit more of a boomer bust type of pick, but in the 6th round, this is the range where you see these breakout receivers, right? Where you see the DK Metcalfs, the Stephon Diggs, the Calvin Ridleys and the Terry McLaurins. Chase Claypool to me is just the next guy in line. He's the next second-year receiver coming off a phenomenal rookie season, graded out really well in reception perception. He was efficient against man coverage. This dude is in line for a bigger role in 2021. The question is, how big is his role going to be?
Yeah, for sure. And personally here, like if we were in a real draft, obviously, again, I would take Mike Davis, but I just don't think that's quite frankly realistic. I mean, we're talking about an underdog. He's usually going in this 4th, 5th area. So to keep the realism up, I'm not going to take Mike Davis here because point blank, that's just not going to happen in your drafts. Do you think there's any chance that Jamar Chase would actually be here in the 6th round?
I think if you're drafting with a little bit more casual players, right? Like if your home league, like let's say you guys are watching this video to prep for your home league, if your home league draft is, they're football fans, but they follow their own team, they follow the draft a little bit, they follow fantasy a little bit, they're probably going to know who Jamar Chase is, but they might not know truly what the guy's ceiling is and what type of projection he is, and maybe even what he did at LSU. So Jamar Chase, to me, I think he has a 4th round ADP on Underdog, but I think that is kind of due to the nature of the platform because it is a best ball format. We can take a little bit more risk in that situation because we know we're going to be taking 6, 7, 8 wide receivers. At that point, I do think in redraft leagues, he might be more of a 5th, 6th round pick.
For sure. And if that's the case, and it's realistic, I will take Jamar Chase here. Again, we're talking about a potential talent that I'm getting here to anchor my 3rd wide receiver spot. It's just tremendous. And if you're looking at Robbie Anderson, he was going to be my next pick. So I
wanted him for my pick. So,
I mean, he was going to be my 4th wide receiver. Yeah. So don't worry. Looking at the board, I do see a little bit of a drop off. I do like Deebo Samuel here. Probably should take him. Let me see the running backs. I can probably wait on either of these guys, but do I want to pass on? No. See, this is the dilemma I want. I love Devontae Williams. I love Damian Harris, but I do have
complete ceiling and floor argument, right? Because we know what Damian Harris's role is going to be, but we know what the ceiling could be for Javonte Williams, and everything that's come out about the dude. It's looking more and more like this guy's going to be a big time riser come August in terms of ADP. We could be looking at a guy that sneaks into the 4th round. Once we figure out, what Melvin Gordon's DUI situation is, and once we see this guy playing in preseason games, apparently he's been taking all the reps with the ones, obviously, because Gordon isn't present for OTAs and mini camps, and that is only going to bode well for him going forward.
For sure. And the reason why, again, I would prefer Javonte Williams over these 2 at the top as much as I love them is the makeup of my team. I have Dalvin Cook. I have Najee Harris. I am affording myself to take that upside shot at my RB3 position because I have such stable horses to anchor those top 2. So, yeah, I mean, if Javonte Williams is there in the 7th round, take him.
There's no way I would have passed him if he would have made it back to me. And Will Fuller, again, was a guy I was looking at. So that's a little bit unfortunate. But I'm going to go with Deebo Samuel here. I think
smart.
In this format, I guess we didn't really specify what the starting slots were, but you can see on the screen there, we got 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 flexes, a tight end, and a quarterback, no defense or anything.
No super flex, don't worry.
And there's no super flex. Yeah, we're doing a 1 quarterback mock draft. So
my mistake.
Deebo Samuel would be my 2nd flex spot. To me, I think that's a great guy to have in that situation. We know Deebo Samuel is going to get targets. They're not going to be the most high value targets, as we talked about with Brandon Ayuk. He's more of the downfield weapon, the true X receiver in that offense. But Deebo Samuel gets those design touches, those carries, those screen passes, all that stuff that's going to be valuable in a half PPR format where you do get credit for those receptions. So the running back position looks like it just really thinned out. I was actually eyeing some of those guys, Damian Harris, Ronald Jones, even
James Conner,
even Zach Moss too. I was actually eyeing with this next pick. And to me, it's not even worth picking a running back now because the guys are just gross on the board right now. So I think I might go back to the wide receiver position. And the fact that I have Kelce and Lamar Jackson makes me, I'm just not even touching a quarterback or a tight end the rest of the draft.
Smart.
So I might as well just load up on these positions. And I have my starters. You know what? I'm going to shoot for some upside. I'm going to take Jerry Jeudy right here. I think Jerry Jeudy, I mean, you talked about it on the breakouts video. Jerry Jeudy absolutely has every ability to break out this year. And I think one thing that's interesting that I heard on another podcast is whoever wins that quarterback job is going to dictate which receiver I like more. Drew Lock is more of the throw up, chuck it and get it quarterback. And that fits more of Cortland Sutton style. Whereas Teddy Bridgewater, we've seen is more the take what's there, throw it to the separator quarterback. Yeah. And that's what Jerry Jeudy does well.
For sure. And I was super mad because I saw Jerry Jeudy and I didn't like anything else at the wide receiver position. Then I realized Devonta Smith is on the board. So I'm just not going to pass on Devonta Smith. I mean, we talked about it. You're going to outline the wide receivers in terms of a potential video. And really outside the top 13 receivers, we can't really talk about a receiver that has that maximum target ceiling. Devonta Smith does have that ceiling. Devonta Smith is in a situation in Philly where he could theoretically, given his talent, given the ambiguity of that receiver room, command a 25-plus target share, even as a rookie. I mean, I think he's that polished to come in and really set the tone of that receiver core right away. So, anyways, a little shout out to myself there. But overall, I'm looking at the board here. I kind of like the reports I've been hearing out of Jacksonville in terms of their usage with Laviska. That's a potential option. Looking at the running back, I do like these quarterbacks available. The thing is, there's so many of them that I like Jalen Hurts is fun if I want to go with an upside shot. And again, I think I can wait on the Stafford stack if I want to choose to do that with Cooper Kupp, maybe in the 10th, 11th round. So I'll bypass the quarterback position. So really, we mentioned the running back's not really worth a damn here. Maybe Trey Sermon is an impressive option, but really, is Sermon here in the 9th round in your opinion?
I think Sermon's worth that pick for sure. If you're looking for an upside swing, I mean, you already have Javonte Williams as well. Like I'm not sure how often Trey Sermon would get into your lineup unless you're you're starting 4 running backs and two your starting options, and then Javonte Williams in your flex. Trey Sermon to me is a guy that is going to be a little frustrating for people. I think people are going to reach on him thinking, like he has he's a big upside swing. He's in the San Francisco 49ers offense. But I think people are going to really be frustrated with his usage. We're going to see flashes of him being, a 60% snap share back with 15 carries. And then the next week he's going to get 2 carries or some shit. Like I just think that's what's going to happen because that's what Kyle Shanahan's always done.
I meant it more so like, do you think he'd be available in the 9th round? Because I usually see him going earlier.
In the 9th round, I could see him being there. Yeah, I think in the 7th, 8th round is probably more likely where he's going to go. But in the 9th round, I mean, you're at the 902, so it's basically the end of the 8th round.
That's fair. Regardless, though, you know what? Like, I never get Laviska in these mock drafts, so I'll take a Laviska share. I think the upside is there. I usually would go with Corey Davis here, but why not spice it up? Get Laviska Shenault.
I think it's pretty interesting knowing that they're not, and I totally expected them to do this, right? This Percy Harvin role that Urban Meyer wants, I totally expected Laviska Shenault to be a perfect fit for it, right? It's what he did at Colorado. He ran the Wildcat. He ran all these snaps out of the backfield and stuff. We even saw him do it a little bit last year. And they want Travis Etienne to do it. Like, I can't explain why. Travis Etienne obviously is a great receiving talent, but Laviska Shenault to me seems more fit to do that role. But what it sounds like they want Laviska Shenault to be is a wide receiver, like a true, slot or outside wide receiver. And I like
look like their best receiver.
Out. So I think he definitely has the ceiling to become that type of player. I just thought he would be more of a guy that would get involved, in more scheme touches and stuff. And speaking of Trey Sermon, I'm actually going to take him here because I don't really have any running backs outside of my top 2, and I need some kind of upside swing.
For sure. Yeah, that's a great pick. And looking at the quarterback, oh, come on. All the quarterbacks want to go off the board as soon as I say, I can wait around.
Oh, let's go. And then the other running back I was eyeing gets back to me too, who made a absolutely phenomenal one-handed catch in practice today that I saw on Twitter. Michael Carter, in the 8th, 9th, 10th round, I'm going to take Michael Carter every single time because to me, he has the ceiling of an Austin Eckler. And I don't think Austin Eckler is going to be likely for him to do, but I think he's a great fit for the offense. He's a great receiving option. And this is a situation where, much like Elijah Moore, Michael Carter is coming in with the quarterback, right? Like they came in the same draft class. They're going to have chemistry in rookie camps. They're already, getting reps together. And I think Michael Carter, when you look at his situation, there's no running backs that scare me. Yeah, Tevin Coleman might be a pain in the ass at the beginning of the season because he has experience in this system, but I think Michael Carter sooner rather than later can take over, a 15 to 18 touch workload. I don't think he's going to get 25 carries a game, but he should be the primary back in that offense. How good the offense is yet to be determined, but I do think he's going to have more value than people think.
For sure. So looking at the board here, I'm looking at that top ranked wide receiver, and he's going to be my pick. Michael Gallup going in the 10th round is just such a freaking crime, in my opinion. I mean, this is still going to be, as much as people want to talk about the volume of that core, although they're all eating into each other, how many targets can we expect? This is still a guy, Michael Gallup, who, if he plays that full 17 game sample size, should be in the line. Well, on a 16 game pace, would be on pace for about 110 targets. On 17 games, probably closer to around the 120 range. This is a guy who we saw 2 years ago put up 1,100 yards, 5 touchdowns, looked like, honestly, Cooper's 1B, and the talent is still there. The reason why people think he's this quote-unquote inconsistent player is because he plays the hardest position of the Cowboys wide receivers. He's been their full-time X these past couple years. And in general, like, people are going to pull up the splits. People are going to pull up, oh, he didn't have 1,000 yards last year. I think the potential is there. And when Michael Gallup has a blow-up week, Michael Gallup can legitimately win you a week. I mean, we saw it last year against Seattle. This guy has 25, 30 points in his arsenal, and getting that type of upside on any given week, and usually you're able to spot them ahead of time given the cornerback matchup he plays against, in the 10th round to be my wide receiver 6 is just insane value to me.
Right. And if anything happens to Cooper or Lamb, he's going to see a bigger uptick. And we could see if it's Lamb that goes down, we could see Michael Gallup from 2019. And if it's Cooper that goes down, then we're looking at a guy who has a monopoly really on any targets plus 15 yards down the field.
Yep, for sure. So I'm going to swing back around here. And yes, I am absolutely gutted at this quarterback run. Like, how could I have anticipated that 5 and a couple teams taking backups would be what was in store for me? But I'll take the chance on Trevor Lawrence. Again, he should be a week 1 starter. I do have the stack there with Laviska Shenault. And out of all these options here, I do believe he has the most upside left. So why not? I'll take the Golden Boy number 1 overall pick.
No, I don't hate it. And since this is this the last round of the draft? No, this is second last round. There's a lot of guys that I really like here, but one thing I'm going to stress to you guys towards the end of the offseason and in general is once you get to this point in the draft, throw ADP out. Don't worry about ADP, because I know a lot of people are going to, on other podcasts, are going to talk about value and wait to get your guys and make sure you don't reach and stuff like that. ADP was a designed thing based on where a player is going. It has nothing to do with how good that player actually is. So if you really believe in a player, the way I believe in Rashad Bateman this year, you pick him. You don't wait. It says he's supposed to go off the board like 3 rounds from now. I don't care. I'm picking him now. I have Lamar Jackson. Rashad Bateman has all the opportunity in front of him. Everybody knows how much I'm high on the Ravens passing offense, the Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, and Rashad Bateman specifically. I have pretty much the entire Ravens offense locked down with Dobbins, Lamar Jackson, and Rashad Bateman. And he's just a guy I'm going to secure in every draft. Once I get to the 11th round, once I get to the 10th round, I'm just going to pick him. I don't care where he's going in ADP. That's just where I'm going to pick him because I want him on my teams.
Yeah, for sure. That is a great pick there. And you complete that little stack there with him and Lamar.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of guys that I want on my teams, I'm caught between 2 of my guys right now at wide receiver. I want to just talk about this guy just because he's getting so much buzz right now. I'm going to take Elijah Moore. I wanted Henry Ruggs too, because obviously everybody knows I like him as well. But man, Elijah Moore is just getting freaking peppered with camp buzz, right? Like, it's just insane. And it doesn't shock me one bit because Elijah Moore, all he's done is be good at everything. Catch the ball, get open, be explosive, be athletic. It doesn't shock me that he's coming right in to the Jets and already looking like the best receiver on the team. And every beat reporter that I follow on Twitter is like, yep, this guy's going to be a star. Like, and it doesn't shock me one bit. So I want him on my teams as well.
And that's what you call a snipe, boys and girls. Yeah, like the face that I made when Corey started talking about Elijah Moore. Oh, man. If he had fallen to me, my team would just be unstoppable.
You could take Ruggs to get back at me. I mean, I don't have another pick, but I theoretically in this situation would probably pick Ruggs with my next pick.
I could do that. I could get a second quarterback. I don't really need to. You know what? For Pete's sake, like, looking at the board available, Ruggs is the next best guy. So fuck it. We'll take Ruggs and finish off this draft. So overall, we can outline our teams and kind of head out of here. But if we're looking at mine again, I got those 2 real anchor running backs with a 3rd upside shot in the 7th round. I think if you're going to avoid the running back position in those wide receiver honeypot rounds, this is the way to do it. George Kittle in the 3rd round. Like, if George Kittle's available to you in the 3rd round, I don't see the reason of passing on him. I mean, typically you won't see like what Bush got, a value of Kelce going in the mid-2nd. He's usually a top 8 pick for the most part. So theoretically, as good of a value as I got on Kittle, the fact that you got Kelce there just kind of makes me sick because that's how this ADP worked. But we'll talk about the rest of my team. DJ Moore, Cooper Kupp, Chase, Devonta Smith, Shenault, Gallup, and Ruggs as my wide receiver core. Absolutely ecstatic about that. You got the stability of a Moore, Kupp with the upside of those young guys in Chase, Smith, Shenault, Ruggs, and then again, more of a veteran, but still a young guy in Michael Gallup. And then Trevor Lawrence completes that stack with Laviska Shenault out of this whole quarterback range, again, in a one quarterback league.
I don't think you should have passed on Lamar at the 5-2 for Kupp.
Potentially.
Again, like, let's think about this objectively, right? Who's going to be more effective for your fantasy team? Who's going to be a bigger advantage at their position? Lamar Jackson or Cooper Kupp?
Oh, definitely it's Lamar Jackson. The way I kind of looked at it, though, is I didn't think this wide receiver value
Kupp
would
is
end up.
Also a tier break at that wide receiver spot. If Kupp wouldn't have been on the board, I think there's no way you should have passed on Lamar Jackson.
Oh, I would.
I actually have Kupp rated higher than DJ Moore, so I would have picked him. I would have picked him ahead of DJ Moore, and I also have him ahead of CeeDee Lamb too.
Well, I have Kupp wide receiver 18 and DJ Moore wide receiver 19 right now. So I have Kupp ahead. I played the ADP game in that regard because Moore was ranked higher, which is what you should do. Even if you have rankings, kind of go off base where their ADP is going. So maybe you can get both of them. But if Kupp wasn't available, if Kupp had gone on that turn, yes, I would have went with Lamar Jackson despite going that early tight end. And if I had known that this wide receiver talent would fall to like Jamar Chase in the 6th, Devonta Smith in the 8th, there's no chance I would have passed on a Lamar or a Dak Prescott at that spot. It just, I don't know. I guess maybe Sleeper needs to fix their ADP.
Well, yeah, and that's one thing I would advise you guys to do is whatever platform you're going to play your league on, mock draft on it. Know where the ADP is maybe off of where you think it should be or is different from other platforms that you think are more accurate. Because if Jamar Chase is a 6th round pick on Sleeper and he's a 4th round pick on Underdog, and maybe he's a 4th round pick on every other fantasy site except for Sleeper, then you can take advantage of that and secure Jamar Chase in the 5th round just to make sure you get him, knowing that that is actually still a value compared to ADPs of other sites. So yeah, I really like your team. I think you got a good mix of ceiling and floor. I actually like my team a little better, obviously, because I'm kind of biased, but I think the reason I like my team better is because I think I have some true difference makers at their positions, right?
That's fair.
If Saquon Barkley stays healthy and everything's, checks out with him, he's going to be a difference maker at the running back position. Travis Kelce, we already know, is a difference maker at the tight end position like no other. J.K. Dobbins, if nothing else, is going to be a very efficient back-end RB1, in my opinion, and has the top 5 ceiling if he can remain very efficient, score a lot of touchdowns, and maybe get a bump in the receiving game. Amari Cooper, as I'm going to talk about in a couple days, has legitimate top 5 wide receiver ceiling, potentially even to top 3 wide receiver ceiling. And then Lamar Jackson, again, we know he can finish as the QB1 any given year. He can put up 1,000 rushing yards. And then again, with the upside at the end of my draft there, I got Chase Claypool, I think has a top 15 wide receiver ceiling. Deebo Samuel, a little bit more of a safer target play, but he balances out the Jerry Jeudy, Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore remaining part of my receiving core. And then Trey Sermon and Michael Carter, I probably won't need them at running back. Maybe that is a weak point of my roster, the fact that I don't really have the greatest RB3 in the world. But between those two guys, I have a feeling one of them is going to hit enough that they're at least an RB2, and I can use them as my my 3rd running back. Yeah,
for sure. And then you topped it off with Bateman and Elijah Moore. Man, I was hoping either of those guys fell to me in the 12th round. Again, I like Ruggs. You're probably the biggest Ruggs truther there is.
I would pick both of those guys over Ruggs, and I love Ruggs.
Same. So anyways, if you made it this far in the video and you enjoyed the content, comment down below. What are we letting them comment today, Bush?
Comment down below. Elijah Moore's camp hype is absolutely absurd, because it is.
For sure. And also, vote on whose team you prefer, myself's or Bush's. And anyways, we'll see you next week for our next mock draft. Peace out, y'all.